Hello, peoples. It's time. We're back again on our bi-weekly journey into the wonderfulness that is the world of darkness. All right, I want to introduce our guests again tonight. Jason has stayed up late again, 2 shows in a row now. I'm impressed.
I'm on a stakeout.
Oh, is that what's going on?
Appropriate, considering that it's a hunter discussion as well.
That's that. Yes, you're listed on my log as a hunter guest, among other things. Now, and of course, Brother Donnie, say hi, man.
Hello, everybody out there in podcast land.
Absolutely, and of course, my wonderful co-host, Brother Jacob.
Hello, hello.
How are we?
We are all here.
Yeah, that's not a good answer, dude. Come on.
The only one you get.
Spike, you know, get happy, dude. Come on.
Get happy.
You know, become a little bit more enthusiastic about having to be here.
Enthusiastic.
I'd like to actually ask something.
You can't. We got to get the first question out of the way first.
Donnie,
hold that
Donnie's
thought.
Gonna beat you to it.
No, hold that thought, Donnie. All right, I get the first question tonight, mostly because Jacob did all the heavy lifting for tonight's show. So I'm gonna switch this up.
Oh yeah,
again.
my arms are so tired.
Yeah, I know, right? It was so much effort involved. So I didn't mention this before the show because I wanted the answer to be candid. What are your feelings on intoxicants at your tabletop games and or LARPs?
There you go.
I just want to say this. It's because I also do announcing at roller derby. I use the same rule there that I use at my table, which is as long as you can handle it and still
play the game.
Yeah, as long as you play the game, as long as you can still act rationally, that's a personal decision between you and your body.
Okay. You know, that sounded almost like a dare testimonial. So, all right, go ahead, Jason. Answer the phone or answer the question. And somebody's at my door. I'll be right back.
Short answer: no.
Now give us that long.
The few experiences that I've had with it, have never been good, and you know, this is kind of a hobby that that we all have, where it's very easy for people to take things out of context. I mean, considering the type of person or the type of people that games like this attract, when you throw alcohol into the mix, it tends not to. It doesn't usually end up well, is what I'm basically saying, and that's just my personal view on it.
I can see that. I can dig.
Yeah, I would. Same with a lot of things, I mean, well, yeah. If it was like after the gaming session, you just went out to like a bar or some place and you just had a couple of drinks or something like that, just talking, about something that happened on television or in politics or something like that, then yeah, that's fine. But when you're actually properly gaming, no, just no.
Yeah, because especially in a game like the World of Darkness, where you can hit on some really touchy subjects to people, because a great thing about this game is you get to explore some aspects of your psyche that you might not be able to really deal with. And when you open that up and become vulnerable, if someone takes something you say the wrong way, like you were talking about, things can get really ugly. So I can see your point perfectly.
Now I'm going to have to come back in here.
I pretty much kind of feel...
I'm going to have to come back in here.
I kind of feel the same way.
I didn't get. I need to go jump somebody off across the street. I'll be right back. It won't take but a minute.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Oh, we will. I would say I pretty much have the same viewpoint there, Jason. I would agree for all the same reasons. I would say, though, that my personal experience is that there's a lot of people with different viewpoints, and as long as things are kept under control and, like Donnie said, people can handle it, then it kind of go with what the majority of those involved in the game are comfortable with. I did have, when my son was like a year and a half, 2 years old, we'd have people come in game, and it was, some people I had met through other people and everything, and I set a house rule that no illegal drugs were allowed to be brought in my house or consumed on my property, because I didn't really want to have to deal with that kind of stuff, because there were some people that, they'd like sit on the front lawn and just get all high and then come inside and expect a game, and I'd be like, that's not cool for me, guys. So either you guys find another gaming group or you don't do this. So
the worst experience I ever had with something like that, and the reason why it informed my opinion of only if you can handle it sort of thing, is our game was a werewolf game. There were 4 players, and I was the ST, and we were really, really stoned, and so one round of combat between 4 Guru, and it was one Pentex strike team of just humans. One combat round took us literally 30 minutes to get through, because we were just, oh man, so yeah. I'm sorry, where was everybody again? So that actually helped to inform my opinion of, only if you can handle your stuff, still be able to function. Because I think that also you should be, if you can do something that kind of helps you relax, great, fine. If that's just listening to Mozart beforehand, great. Or if it's smoking a little bit or taking a couple of shots, great. But more than that, really, I think that you really are just going to kill the mood for everybody in the party.
Yeah.
The thing that urged me to go down the road that I do with, regards to mixing alcohol and drugs, now that we've actually mentioned it, and gaming, it's mostly just been the experiences that I've had with people who, well, to put it politely, I think some of them may have had some issues. I mean, interpret that how you will. And it would just come up, either out of gaming sessions, or sometimes, in a few times, actually came up within gaming sessions. And it just kind of, alcohol is a social lubricant, and, when you don't have to be completely stoned off your board to kind of agree, kind of getting to a mindset where you're more likely to say what's on your mind. So it just kind of gave me the idea that if these people are so, if they're so off their rocker when they're sober, imagine what they're going to be like when they're drunk.
Yeah.
The last thing that you want in a gaming session is, someone throwing something across the side of the room, in a drunken rage. No one knows. If you've never been drunk with a friend before, you have no idea how they're going to behave when they're drunk. Some people get happy, some people. It sounds like the stakeout has returned with a werewolf unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Not about
and getting to the subject matter, since in a game of Hunter the Reckoning, you are supposed to be playing a person, regular Joe Schmo, who has suddenly been told, who suddenly had it shoved in their face. Oh, snap! Vampires are real. you really can't get that raw, visceral emotion that to really capture the essence of Hunter the Reckoning if you are chemically imbalanced, for lack of a better word. You know, if you are drunk or you are stoned, you're not going to be able to role play a guy who has just had the veil lifted, ripped from their eyes, and they know, so there really are 9-foot-tall, fur-covered killing machines.
Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, yeah, they are ordinary people who have, very boringly ordinary lives, but they don't get that specific knowledge. They don't know who vampires exist or werewolves exist or anything. All they know is that monsters exist.
Well, I mean, like, usually...
You can make your own interpretation. This is something I want to get onto at, preferably when Peter's back, but...
He can catch up.
Yeah, you'll catch up. Hunters, they see things with a very broad scope when it comes to monsters. They don't see... If you're introducing, like, vampires into a hunter game, you're not going to care about... if you're playing from a hunter perspective, the differences between the Camarilla and the Sabbat, are pointless.
Pretty much.
The differences between the clans or the bloodlines is really irrelevant. I mean, yeah, true enough. If you're playing vampire, they are important, but if you're playing hunter, then they're really not. I mean, you can kind of create like little variants of little vampires to, kind of spice things up, and also to give the impression that it depends entirely on what kind of chronicle that you're doing. One that I was doing for a hunter game that I was running is that I created kind of like a caste system for the vampires, like derived from like canon sources and little things. At the bottom you would have like the very urban vampires, the more outwardly monstrous, whilst at the top you would have ones who have more of these, esoteric powers and more, they're more likely to have social influence. But yeah, you gotta look at monsters from a hunter perspective, which basically means you have to forget everything.
I was going to do something similar to what you were talking about, Jason. I was recently gathering a group together, but scheduling conflicts fell through. Instead, I was going to have one family of vampires ruling the city with their werewolf slaves and witches who gain their powers by selling their souls to the vampires, and doing it like that because of the fact that most of the people that I would be playing with, they knew the world of darkness, and I wanted to give them a fresh perspective with Hunter the Reckoning. And Hunter is really the best game to do this with, of going, yeah, let's take everything twist it so that neither the player or the character has any idea what's going on.
And that's good too, because especially if you're focusing on just one area, like just focusing on Hunter and not worrying about crossovers or anything like that, definitely fuck around with the different species, because especially if you've got experienced players, you want to throw them for a loop, because their characters don't know shit, so it makes it easier if they don't know shit either.
Yeah, and as hard as you'd like to not metagame, some things will unconsciously slip through. Hey, I think Peter's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Sounds like he's back.
The one night of the week when I don't need anybody knocking on my door is the one day that everybody's knocked on my fucking door. And she couldn't have picked a worse time. Anyway, I'll go back and listen to your answer later, Jason.
The short answer was no.
Yeah. But yeah, so going back to what you were talking about, Jacob. Yeah, you want to avoid the metagame by playing around with things, and it works so great if you're playing just a hunter-only game. You can do anything you want to, and another thing also is the hunter, the powers for the imbued. You can even still play around with those and change them up, even beyond just what's in canon, because the powers are supposed to be given to you. Well, let's say that the messengers don't want you to be able to turn a baseball bat into a flaming club, but instead maybe it's maybe it gives you the ability to burn people on contact.
Yeah. Or manifest a weapon out of nothing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Which is one of my favourite applications of cleave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically means that even if your character gets stripped of all their weapons, you're going to be like, "Way, fucking lightsaber out of nothing."
Yes.
Well, all right, it's not an actual lightsaber. It would be more like a, sword made out of sword made out of golden fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing on the subject of custom-made monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Read everything about the World of Darkness and just create something new if you'd like. There's even a supplement which helps with this. I believe it was called Urban Legends. And it gives the various supplement advice to create a basically describe how was it made, what's the source of its powers, does it inflict bashing damage, lethal damage, etc., etc., etc. And in addition, it also gives some advice about how observational edges and certain other edges would affect it. I do like that modular ability of Hunter the Reckoning. It is. Urban Legends is great. Plus, any of the books like the Infernal, the Moonstruck, any of those enemy books are also great to tweaking out the base template that White Wolf put down in their original, in the other 5 lines. The main 5, as it were.
Also, can you, just as a side note, why can't you use some of the, for instance, By Night books for a Hunter Chronicle?
Because they're vampire books.
Mm.
Yeah, they're
focused
very
entirely around vampire. You can implement things like the Camarilla and the Savant into it, but it's kind of like, Joe Schmo, who works a mechanic in a garage on the outskirts of Chicago. He's not going to give a shit about the Camarilla Savant struggle, really, honestly. His world is small. His world is just at best. It's probably, his circle of friends and family. It's not, a grand global jihad. Especially if he's, working minimum wage and he's probably, he doesn't think too far ahead into the future, which can happen because the imbued are taken from ordinary people.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as another side note, I see some rumblings about that they're rewriting all the By Night books. They're recruiting for writers?
I don't think so. I do know that they're toying around with this thing called the Storyteller's Toolbox. I think that's
saw that too, but
talking about.
It was just there was a couple of kind of strange questions being added. Oddly enough, it was Eric was one of the folks that commented about it. Was they were asking what the word count in the old by night books was. And usually the only time you have to worry about that kind of thing is if you're either rewriting it or you're updating it.
Well, I think he was asking because he wanted an idea for the fact that they're allowing people to write their own by night books. So to have a rough idea on how big the old by night books were, so that any of the new custom-made ones are about the same size, and you don't have, one that's going to be like 2 pages and another one that's going to be like a 3-volume set.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, again, that's going to be part of the whole Storyteller's Toolbox, to where they will accept this stuff
as canon.
Yeah.
That's always the question. So, are they planning to do these for all of the splats, or to bring us back around to Hunter? There aren't a lot of things that you can use for Hunter as a backdrop other than what you can come up with on your own. I don't remember them being.
I actually think that would be.
Well, you do custom creeds, custom edges.
The Hunter is quite modular when it comes to. In fact, I would say it's probably White Wolf's first modular game. There is a supplement which does deal with like geographic settings. It's called the Hunter Survival Guide, and it kind of like denotes like it does brush over things in some very broad strokes, but
nowhere near as much detail as a by night book.
No, nowhere near as much detail.
No, because they kind of skip.
But a by night book would, but a by night book for Hunter and maybe some of the other splats too might actually be even more interesting to see than having vampire modules come out for all over the world, because they didn't really do much of that. And we're not just talking like about like when Hunter was first released. This is 20 years later.
Yeah.
What has 20 years done to the Hunter culture? It's
the one game that's usually played less than Ray.
And trying to coordinate. Who's to say that there couldn't be organizations or even some of the larger cities where there's more of an interconnection between the hunters, where a by night book would actually be good, where you have the visionaries and the judges take in the defenders, kind of keeping tabs on what's going on. And when, one of the multitudinous other supernatural creatures starts getting out of line, they call in the Avengers, and this is where you zero in. That's I could see where that would be new ground that can be explored that never was before. A by night book for every city is great. But
you have to do one for each.
We've already seen
every
before.
splat,
and they're saying that these by night books are going to be canon. Well, so whose version of Denver is going to be canon? The one that gets put out there first,
right?
Or the one that
that is a good point.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's one of the things I was contemplating of doing in my own game, is having people send in their stuff. But here's the thing, though, that really kind of is a huge legal thing, is whenever you submit your by night, you're giving over all of that to the company. So this means that, okay, say we have the Denver by night source book. By the way, hi Serena. a friend of mine. Anyways, so you release you write the Denver by Night source book. You send it in. White Wolf gets 5 of them. They pick George's. Okay, so George has written the Denver by Night source book. Well, what if somebody else comes along and goes, "Hey, what about a part 2 of that?" And here's how I would have taken those characters that direction. George is now shit out of luck because what he wrote is now completely twisted from what he wanted it to be, what he thought it would be. And, Bob has now written a new part to Denver. Do you continue to do this? Do you continue to release Denver by Night source books as people send in ideas? Do you just drop the one Denver by Night source book? How are you going to...
then you start worrying about where in the timeline you're actually playing, too. So you can actually have updates to a by night city, and all of it be canon. It's just canon for that particular time period.
Well, and it's no different than any freelancer who's been involved with any role-playing game. Is once you submit what you've written, somebody else is going to piss all over it.
Yeah, it's called an editor.
Somewhere down the line, somebody's going to take what you wrote and they're going to fuck it over and change it in a ways that you aren't exactly comfortable with, and there's not really much we can do about it.
Yeah, but like I said, do you continue to pump out Denver by Nights as people come up with ideas, or you just go, "Here's Denver by Night, let's move on. Who's got one for Austin by Night?"
But and I guess we'll know more details as it gets closer to that time. But the way it seems to be presented is it's basically like, if you guys want to write 15 sequels to Denver by Night and
go for it,
Atlanta, then I guess that's what's going. And as long as enough other people are seriously involved in the plot line for Denver because of what you guys have submitted, then I guess we'll keep doing it.
So you've been working on this
by night book for a while
now, and so you got some good protagonists and.
Just to bring the conversation back onto Hunter, Jacob did bring up something which is something which I've tried to stress for years and years when it comes to playing Hunter. The creeds aren't quite as
static.
They're not quite as visually, or they're not. They are basically a playing aid. But they're not quite as, they're not clear, is what I'm trying to say. There is no, if you get like a bunch of innocents, they're not going to create a club with a sign outside that says no.
Saying, Hunter.
No.
HunterNet.org.
Yeah, but they're just. It's more a mindset than anything else. Yeah, true enough, you are going to get some people who are going to be more predispositioned toward violence, and they're most likely going to be one of the Zeal creeds.
Avengers, usually.
Or Vision. But, hell, even Martyrs of the Mercy Creed are predispositioned toward violence, but, it's for a completely different reason to the Avengers. Let's say everyone in this conversation here were one of the imbued. Most of us probably know some of us fairly well, others perhaps not so well, and we can probably surmise which creeds would be, appropriate for each other.
I'll be honest, I don't know that I know you well enough for that, but at least the other two guys in the channel, I could probably do it.
Yep. See what I mean? And there's a lot of crossover. I say crossover. There's a lot of blurring the lines, and it's only when said member of said creed starts to when their primary virtue gets to 7 or above, do they start to show signs of being more, the embodiment of that particular creed.
A glow.
Yeah,
it would probably show up under aspects. You'd think.
No, not like that. Oh, besides, we're playing Hunter here. All specs.
Well, no, but I mean, if a kindred, if you can tell me hunters don't hunt kindred because they do.
They do hunt vampires. Yes, they don't hunt kindred though. That's the kind of the whole point.
Yeah,
hunters don't know anything about the world of darkness that they've woken up into. They don't see. They don't. Not even.
That's why I use the term kindred instead.
They don't use the vampires to hunters. Kindred is a term that's completely alien to them. Hunters awaken into a world full of monsters. They don't think. Not even with the second sight. They can't even distinguish between vampires and werewolves. They need observation edges for that. It's not always clear.
Some of their gifts they can only tell if something's alive or dead. So like a zombie and a vampire would register the exact same way as a lich mage. Or
you're thinking of discern. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
With that, you're basically seeing traits which kind of like suggest what this monster is.
Yeah, a werewolf would be a huge hulking sort of beast.
No. A werewolf would look like it's breathing more like an animal, or it would, have this distinct smell of, of the wild, or it would, have like, a lot more. It'd look more hystert than a normal human would. Little hints and detail is. In many ways, the Hunter is a very Kafkaesque game because it's a game which for a sole hunter, for a solitary hunter, it's a game of isolation.
Well, yeah, because they're not human anymore, technically speaking.
Technically, depends how you want to view the imbued. Do you want to view them as being just ordinary humans that were blessed with power from this otherworldly force? Do you want to think of them as like the last mortal descendants of the Nephilim that have, after the demons have broken out of hell, that has somehow awakened their powers, or maybe that they are these same mortal descendants of the Nephilim? Those voices that they hear aren't actually of angels, but of their ancestors screaming for vengeance against the demons that killed them. It's, like I said, Hunter is a very modular game, and you can create whatever story that you'd like with it.
Or even, and this always has to be brought up, or they are the descendants of the Solar Exalted.
Yes, that's very apt.
It was I think it came closer to the concept I was always wondering about, is they did demons. And granted, not all of the denizens of the world of darkness are inherently evil. So why did they leave out the angels? And I'm thinking that would probably, because it appears they're getting their newfound power from a celestial source, not an infernal one like the abyss. Or the Maelstrom.
I think it's pretty obvious why they. I think it's pretty obvious the reason they left out angels is because it kind of. It adds a little bit too much hope to the world and contradicts the dark feeling of... Because basically the world of darkness kind of has this subtone that God has abandoned the world and we're all just slowly riding the degeneration into nothingness. And to have angels actively involved would probably... it would really change the tone of many of the different game lines. It would
not if they're fighting on and they know they can't win.
Difficulties.
That was my option.
And we've already got that with Changeling.
And technically, when you look at the power ramp of demons, an angel would be like more powerful than that, which I don't think would be fun to play.
No, the power gaming is always boring.
I just want to get.
I don't know. I'm not much into that power gaming technique. So
no, power gaming is boring.
I do want to bring this up. In canon, it is listed that there are 2 angels left in the world, but it is listed in the storyteller's. I believe it's a storyteller's companion. I could be wrong.
For Hunter.
Yes, the hunter. It does state that these messengers are more kind of like a filter for a greater force. This force, we could call it angels if we'd like. But the thing is, because angels, the messengers, the ministers, whatever you want to call them, because they've been so separated from humanity for so long, and because they are, so powerful, they don't know how to interact with humans. That's why for the imbued, whenever they hear like that voice in their head that tells them it does not live, or manipulation must cease, or any other cryptic message that comes from upon high, that's basically a pure intent that has been sent to them from the messengers. But obviously, you try to it's basically like you're trying to translate something from Babelfish, or Google Translate,
Oh yeah.
In the early betas, that's how it's interpreted, and that's why in canon, whenever hunters, especially ones with a high patron background, whenever they are contacted by the messengers, or they receive messages from upon high, it's always described them as feeling very disconcerted and sick, because it's especially in the early days, because they're not used to being in contact with this otherworldly, all-powerful, almost Cthulhu-esque creature, or creatures, depending on how you want to view it, this force. And considering the kind of lives that hunters live after the imbuing, it's probably no surprise that they do end up going a bit crazy.
Yeah. I feel something about that's it's one of the flaws that you wind up having to take if you've been at it long enough.
Speaking of being at it long enough, are we going to? Will Onyx Path ever do a Hunter 20th? Because if so, I would like to see Hunter.net to see how it evolved.
Yeah, I think considering the recent technological advances, that the Hunter community as a whole would go beyond just like a single website created by Witness One. I mean, of course, this was created during the days when the internet was pretty. I don't think anyone could have predicted just how much of a domineering force the internet has become in the present day.
I don't know. I've been talking to computer engineers for the better part of 4 decades, and most of them did know it was coming. The timeline was when are we going to get enough infrastructure built that everybody can talk to everybody, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, off the top of my head, I could think of a few ways that they could update it for the recent technological advances. I mean, definitely we can all joke about, hunters on social media probably having their own media platform.
So did the kid Nosferatu, so
Yeah. The only difference is the Nosferatu, who don't exist in Hunter, wouldn't have the same celestial protection over their social media as Hunters did with Hunter.net, Hunter.org.
Yeah, hunters-net.org.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was left out the dash.
Yes.
Hashtag die in a fiery death blood drinker.
Yeah. I can't imagine what Hunter Twitter must look like. Probably just Violin99 just trolling everyone.
Right, but I mean, not Hunter.net itself, but just the organizational ability of hunters with today's technology, more than just a social media, but just how easily they could organize to make it to where it wouldn't be such a grassroots movement. Because if you found out, if you had your news feed set up on Google to pick up stories about people manifesting fiery blades, for example, that most people would blow off
just some National Enquirer weirdness.
That is another thing which a lot of people don't really realise about hunters. Ordinary people can't see them using their edges, even the most overt ones. They get the same kind of like weird delirium thing.
Yeah,
which,
but I mean, I'm just saying that.
And now that you've actually mentioned Google, I do think that in canon, the monsters of the world would probably want Google to manipulate their algorithm to not reveal things like that.
That's what TrekNet's for.
Which does not exist in Hunter.
Exactly. But the technocrats would probably maneuver things as well.
Who don't exist in Hunter neither. But
who don't exist in Hunter, yes. But in any event, though, I mean, I suppose you hear tales about a lot of people die in an area, and it's a serial killer that apparently is draining all of their blood, and then all of a sudden the serial killings stop. You as a hunter of, say, just a modicum of experience would probably think, that sounds like a monster. That might even be a vampire, if I've ever dealt with vampires in the past. Let me go to that town and do a little investigation and see if I can find the guy who probably killed the vampire. It would be very easy to do something like that.
Yep. And they also have, they probably only just need to take a look at the writing on the wall to see if there's any semblance of that, because they do have Hunter code.
Right. But I mean, in today's world, with the interconnectedness that we have, it would probably be far easier for the imbued to gather together.
Yes, much more.
In many ways, you could almost say that the imbued online in the present day would be almost kind of like, well, I hate to say this, but they'd almost be like Pol, you know. But, you know, obviously a little bit less racist.
Who?
Pol from 4chan. It's like a sub-forum thing. It's like one of the darkest parts of the internet that you only go whenever you're feeling particularly masochistic.
I've stayed out of the dark web for over a decade. I think I only needed the FBI knocking on my door once.
No, he doesn't mean the dark web. He means like dark as in like the world of darkness dark.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
About to say, man,
I personally speaking, I think if Payless was around today, he'd probably be browsing Pol.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and so with today's technology, it would probably be a lot easier. It would also be a lot easier to hunt down the creatures.
Not so much.
No,
not feeling it.
Well, I think it would be very difficult to kind of like point out their monstrousness, because this is actually something I brought up in a game that I was running. The hunters that we had, they kept on falling into the same trap of trying to use technology to like locate monsters, but they never found them, because the way that one of the visionaries described it, they used the allegory of there's 26 letters in the English alphabet. What if there was actually like 32? And those, extra 6 letters were used to hide something from the rest of humanity. Mm. And they used the argument, in conjunction with technology. We can see like my mobile phone has like a 1080 high definition on it. What if those like 6 letters kind of prevented it from going to its full potential and showing something that I would not have, I'm not allowed to see. So they realise that with the second sight and all the other observational edges, that's the only way that they could observe truth. I mean, it's not to say that you couldn't, if you knew that person with the red tie who goes out to lunch at like 1 o'clock every single day is a monster. Unless there's something else that got thrown into the mix, you could potentially, use social media or any other technological means which was very publicly available to try and track the guy. You know, I mean, it only takes like one person standing on a corner, just looking at the guy and like sending a message on Twitter saying, you know, person is here, or a PM over Facebook or whatever.
I get that, and I get what you're saying.
I mean,
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about like the experienced magi or the experienced kindred. I'm talking about the neonates, the ones who still believe that they can be a part of the human world.
The street level monsters is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's street level monsters. That's a good phrase. I like that. I'm going to use that from now on.
Yeah, in truth, that is majority of the monsters which the imbued will encounter. It's not to say that they couldn't like get into contact or go toe to toe with something a little bit more powerful, but their chances of survival on their own, or barring a miracle, are quite slim. Having said that, it does say in canon that most often, the elder vampires, the elder werewolves and other magi and things like that, they tend not to notice the imbued because they're so new, and they're so...
They don't know what to look for.
Yeah, and any time that they are presented with evidence, or by their neonates, or by their lessers, they usually just dismiss it as being something else. The werewolf goes up to his elder and says, "I just found this human here that can wield a tire iron like it's made out of silver," and the elder goes, "Yeah, sure, tells tall tale, sure."
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but also
he explains to him that I just want to finish this thought. He explains to him that he's just had an encounter with a mage or a fairy or some insert anything else here. There's no way that an ordinary human can swing a tire iron as hard as it could so that it was made out of silver.
Yeah, that could hurt a werewolf.
That could deal ag, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, ag damage.
But I wanted to also bring up, that was true of back in the day, because that's how they presented Hunt of the Reckoning, where that imbued just showed up last Tuesday. All right.
Yeah, if you've been alive for 1,000 years, you bet your ass.
No.
They're so new, it's not. They are almost beneath notice.
In the world of darkness itself, they were presenting the imbued as a very recent phenomenon. But fast forward it to 20 years now.
Right.
Even the elders would have to sit there and go,
"Wait a minute, there's too much weird shit going on around these folks."
Probably, but that also brings up something I actually had a very interesting discussion about not all that long ago. Do you know what makes Hunt of the Reckoning scary, or hunters scary, as whether they're using them as, whether it's the game that there's a protagonist or as an antagonist? It's fear of the unknown. As a hunter, you're an ordinary person being thrust into a world full of monsters that you have absolutely no way how to deal. You have no idea how many there are there. It seems like unlimited. Mm-hmm. Whilst as far as antagonists, you're a big bad vampire. Yeah, great, cool. You're a werewolf, fighting, an eco-terrorist existence. You're a wizard who's creating magic and stuff like that. All of a sudden you find these ordinary people this ordinary person who you wouldn't have, given a second glance, but you try and do something, you try and dominate the guy, or you're in Krenos and you're trying to commit acts of terrorism against some oil company or whatever. And the janitor of this establishment suddenly stabs you in the back with a flaming mop handle that he broke.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good steak.
It's like the guy. It's like you looked at him, beforehand, and he seemed normal. Next thing you know, he's there. You have no idea. And what's even scarier is that even if you did manage to interrogate him, he wouldn't know how he did that.
Nope. Not yet, anyway.
I mean, it's kind of the best way comparison I could make. It's kind of like the agents in the Matrix, except obviously it's not a case of them being hijacked. It's them being given, someone just put a very powerful, supernatural gun into their hands, as it were, told them to go shoot.
A god gun. Well, no, with the heaven gun.
Yeah.
You've seen the episode of American Dad. Yeah.
Yes, heavenly bullets.
Why do we even have that? So,
power has descended forth from
Jacob, are you still with us? I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah. Well, I've been part of the conversation, so maybe you just tuned my voice out.
No?
I've let these two boys go on this last topic, though.
Right, just let them go.
Yeah.
Man.
I'll let them, because they were on a roll. Both of them.
Hey, man, like I said, it's the organic nature of the conversation. Sometimes it happens. Anyway, I haven't had a chance to say hi. Hi, girls. Because I'm pretty sure that's all we've got in the channel right now is females.
Sabrina and New Wave, yeah.
So, unless is one of y'all inflating the numbers?
No, it's just my voice.
Well, no, there are 4 people on, and that accounts for 2 of them.
How many of them are us?
I don't show up. That's what I said. Are we inflating the numbers somehow?
Well, I'm always on in case there's chat conversations or
that's
questions
you.
or anything.
So
I'm one.
I'm there too for chatting purposes.
Okay. So, let's see. Have you covered edges in any?
No, we haven't.
No, we've just talked about the use of them.
But we haven't really discussed them.
Yeah.
Well,
like how it's built in that you can never get the level 5 edge.
No, it mentions that if you can get Conviction 10, you can get a Storyteller's Dispensation.
Yeah, you can get Storyteller's Fiat to allow it. And the only way to get the 4 is for you to go insane.
Yeah, that is in the core book.
Out.
There is a revision in the player's guide.
Yeah.
Who basically says that level 1 and level 2 edges can be bought with like 1 virtue point, level 3 and level 4 with 2 virtue points, and for a level 5 edge you need 4 virtue points. But and obviously it's like you have to buy them in succession. If I'm a defender, I have to have a level 1, 2, and 3 defender edge before I can get a level 4 defense edge.
Yeah. Whenever I read the initial book, though, that was my thought of why did you people put in level 5 edges, and why did you make them so juicy when you can't?
Then nobody ever gets to use them.
Yeah,
that's because they're dicks. Haven't you ever met a game developer? I have. They're not nice people.
He says to ensure that we never have another on our show again.
I'm not, and they know I'm not serious. Actually, most of the ones I've ever met have been really upstanding folks. And, I try not to bother them when they're busy doing their thing because I want to play their shit. And if I keep bothering them, they have less time to actually get my shit out. So, okay, edges. Let's discuss some.
Okay.
How about some of the favorites?
My personal favorites, besides cleave, which is always useful.
What in gay hell is that?
My cat accidentally turned on the radio of my clock.
Oh.
That's a smart cat.
I don't trust cats, man.
I'd use a second sight on that. That can't be natural. But anyway, yes. Favorite edges. Cleave, obviously, is one. 4C.
Well, you got to tell me which.
It's a level 1 Avenger edge.
Vengeance edge.
It is basically a. It's the iconic edge of the Hunter game line. It's the fiery sword.
The creating of weapons out of thin air.
Yeah, or enhancing a weapon that you already have, as long as it's a melee.
So you can
weapon.
be like,
and it isn't a chainsaw.
Luke Cage and punch people instead.
Yeah. The other one's 4C, which is a level 1 vision edge, purely because it gives you like free.
That gives you the ability to sidestep a bullet.
No, that's something else. But it does give it gives you the ability to make free re-rolls. It's like the Destiny background, but it's something that you can you roll your dice, and however many successes you get, that's how many re-rolls you can do in a single scene. Let me think.
One of mine is Ward. I love Ward. It's level 1 defense. It enables you to push creatures back. They have to beat your stamina to get to you.
It's like turn undead.
Yeah,
pretty
much.
Well, it's stamina plus defense is zeal. So you roll stamina plus zeal. They have to make a stamina roll to get to you.
Yeah, that's another thing that I forgot to mention about Hunter Edges. They don't work like any other powers. You roll an attribute plus the virtue which the edge comes from. Like with 4C, it would be intelligence plus vision. With Ward, it would be stamina plus zeal. Let me think of some of the edges. Although this isn't one I get to use very often, I am a fan of the level 2 Wayward Edge for Worn, because it's basically kind of like a spider sense.
Yeah. By the way, I was right. I hadn't even looked at it until now. Because the visionary sight is to cast to the future, allowing them her many paths. Essentially, you can see which direction the bullet's going to go, and you step to one side.
Mechanically speaking, for that, it basically, if you want to dodge, you can roll for dodge, but you can declare beforehand that you're going to use one of your re-rolls. So you make the 2 different rolls, and you can pick whichever result is best.
Now, do these get better as you... I'm talking about... Okay, once you get to the 2 dots on the standard edges for Visionary, does it make 4C work better?
It's more a case of it's like this. As you increase your primary virtue, you get more dice. A virtue is like... It starts off at 1 and it can end up at 10. Of course, by the time you're 10, you're going to be completely off your gourd. But, it's neither here nor there. But yeah, you're going to, for the most part, you're going to be rolling either 2 or 15 dice. and
this is why I have a dice rolling program on my fucking Kindle. I shit you not. It's like I ain't got time to be looking for 37 fucking dice.
I say it ends at 15, but if you actually start gambling conviction, it can get even higher.
Yeah. Now, the way the edges work is you don't. The next edge up isn't a better refinement. It's
something new. I'm looking.
It's something. Yeah, it's something new. And it does. It basically grants you something else along the same theme.
Yeah.
Like all of the creeds, all of the like edge paths, should we say? They all focus around a single concept. I'll just go.
Usually having something to do with the name of the creed.
Yes. Well, not the name of the creed, the nature of the creed. Vengeance. Your creed is focused around offensive capabilities. That's why it starts off with Cleave, goes on to Trail, then on to Smolder, then on to Surge, and then on to everyone's favourite Smite.
Smite. Yeah. I shall smite thee a resounding buffet upon the helm.
No, you just point at the guy, and then something which is not quite lightning and not quite fire erupts from your hands, and basically just obliterate everything.
Just do a god power.
It's literally the wrath of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's described as being... It creates a deafening bang, which leaves people deaf for an entire several minutes. It causes metal to become warped and discoloured. Glass shatters. Everything. It is basically kind of like the wrath of God just being spurt out on a monster.
Causes nosebleeds.
Well, it is, as the name describes, it is pretty much a small god, just expressing its displeasure.
Pulling a Zeus.
And yes, it is. Yes, it is pretty much pulling a Zeus. It's not my favourite level 5 edge, but it is one of my favourites.
I'm looking at one of the additional ones for Vengeance, Harpoon.
Yes,
that one looks pretty hip.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It can be fun because you can stick Harpoon in someone and drive away.
Yes. And then drag them.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite edges, though, it's level 3 Judgment, I think it is, Balance.
Oh, yes.
Where you can cut someone off from their supernatural energy.
Wait a minute,
you can literally sit there. You can tell a vampire...
You can't use celerity. Fuck you.
No.
You can't use Vite at all.
Yeah,
you can't. You got to burn blood to accelerate.
Basically, what it does is it cuts it off from the source. Basically, they can't spend that source of energy. No.
And most of the disciplines require at least one blood point to fire.
Yeah, and also think about this for a Guru though. They can't rage. They can't use Gnosis.
They would be more. They would actually be more at more of a disadvantage than Kindred in that particular incident, because the strength. It's just undead strength. It's just every vampire has the ability to actually snap your head off if they get hold of you. Doesn't really matter. So that one would work, but you couldn't use potence to, throw a sewer lid or something.
You get the extra dice.
One of my favorites. I check a sewer lid at you.
You'd get the extra dice, but you wouldn't get the automatic successes.
Yeah.
Another edge which I'm really a big fan of, Enrage, which is a level 3 Wayward edge. It seems pretty innocuous. I mean, it seems pretty dickish. It seems like a very dickish move. Basically, you roll and you cause virtually every hunter, depending on the number of successes, to go into a frenzy around you.
Oh no!
But that's not the part. That's not the best part of it. The best part is, depending on the number of successes that you get, you actually give extra dice to your allies' attacks. Their offensive attacks.
Oh, it's a buff. Awesome.
It is basically like a catch-all, but Waywards are basically kind of like
they're kind of supposed to be generals.
Yeah, they're supposed to be generals. They're kind of like bards, but with psychosis, I suppose you could say.
Now is that psychosis or psi?
They give you the best buffs, but they're also crazy. And I will say this: with this, you could, if you rolled right, get a character like a 4 dice attack character, like an innocent, just to be stereotypical. And with enough successes, you can turn them into an 8 or 9 dice attack. And if you have an Avenger who has about 8 or 9, it can go up to as many as, however many successes that you want to get. I mean, just how fucked do you want your monster to be at the end of it?
I mean, do you want to be just a little fucked or completely buggered?
Yeah. That's why.
That's why I think we lost him. Holy shit. Did we lose everybody?
I'm still here.
Okay. Dead air, man. Yeah, we lost him. Shit. He'll be right back, I assume.
Was he totally dropped from the call, or did he just go quiet?
I don't know. He was in mid-sentence.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe he hit.
Yeah, there he is. He's
back. Oh, sorry. What part was I on?
You were... Oh, fucking hell.
You were talking about buffing up an Avenger to however many successes you want.
Yeah. So just how fucked up do you want your characters to get? But yeah. Besides that, the other edge, which I've always been a fan of, I've always as far as fluff is concerned, anyway, I've always liked the level 2 Redeemer edge, Insinuate.
That's a good one.
It basically, in the fluff wise, it basically you inflict a regret and emotion upon a monster, to get it to kind of see the error of its ways. Mechanically speaking, you increase the difficulty of its any attack that it does.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting, but it doesn't seem really cool.
It doesn't sound very cool.
It is from a role-playing aspect.
Yeah, basically what you're doing is...
do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry?
Right.
Yeah, you're attacking the monster by inflicting them with the power of love. Like the Frankie Goes to Hollywood song.
Yes.
Or it could also... You could also take it as you're also forcing them to remember... a memory from their mortal years.
That looked like it. You could actually sometimes touch humanity.
So if you think of how terrifying that is to an elder or a member of the Sabbat to have this mortal just tell them and say, just say like something innocuous, and all of a sudden you've got a memory from when you were a child. And it's like almost making you wish that you could cry because you're feeling so sad. That would be terrifying on the other end of things. I mean, that's only applicable to crossovers, but still, I mean, it's a very potent edge.
Hard to have crossovers if none of this shit exists.
Everything exists.
Yes, that's what. It depends entirely on which game you're playing, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what he says now. Alright, so,
well, we were using vampire terms when we were trying to explain what Hunter's
I
about,
know,
so.
and I appreciate you keeping us on track.
Yeah, it's also 3 o'clock in the morning.
We only got an hour, man. You're good.
Yes, and I'm a bit of a dick when I've not had sleep.
Only when you haven't had sleep? I've gamed with you, dude.
That's true, but I'm usually a lot nicer when I've had sleep.
There's just so little information on the wiki, other than the basis stuff that's already in the book.
Yeah, then maybe you should consider getting the books.
See, that's just not something that's going to happen. If they redo Demon, you're damn right I'm going to, and Wraith as well. I want the updated rules for those. And apparently I'm supposed to get a 20th anniversary edition of Vampire for backing Prince's Gambit. Still waiting on the code for that. But and they're charging $8 for shipping. Not all of I've noticed there's some comments over at the Kickstarter that were less than joyful. They were not happy that they actually had to pay another $8. I was like, Jesus, guys, just quit bitching. Just pay the $8 and then find.
I will say this, though, that on the Creed books, one of the things I always found nifty was at the back of the book, they'd have a section called New Rules. And, like, for example, in the Avengers, they had the ability for you to make a custom weapon. And one of the side effects of this custom weapon was when you use cleave, it usually destroys
whatever you cleave with.
But with the
magic
special weapon you make, it's immune to that aspect.
See, so there are the magic weapons. I've been looking for them. Haven't I, Jacob?
Yes, you have been.
I was wondering. It's like, it's such a basic fucking concept for an RPG. Just saying. Okay. Why the fuck don't you see them in Vampire very much? There are a few, but they're nowhere near. I guess it's because using them would probably violate the all kinds of masquerade and shit. Especially some of it.
What? A flaming sword would be a masquerade violation?
No, I'm talking about things like the dragon saber, the one that'll suck blood out of your opponent, and feed it to you. The ivory bow, the one that's a bow, it'll stake you and deal aggravated damage.
Yeah. Something else. For defender, you could have a token which would grant you, which you could use to grant someone extra soak, because defenders are all about protecting somebody. You would make one of these tokens and give it to your ward or whatever. They could have just a hair bit of extra soak, long enough for them to survive, and for whatever other edges you've used to protect them, so you can rush over there and make with the slaughter of the thing that's screwing around with your people. So, like I said, as you go through the various Creed books, you'll see these little nifty rules specific for that Creed.
Yep.
And that's what I thought was good about them, because not just the fluff to help you get in the mindset of, hey, this is how you play a hermit. Okay. But also,
that's the other thing I've always found a bit strange, is that you're okay, for thaumaturgy there's all kinds of shit you can learn. But for some of these combat skills like cleave, edges, as in hunter jargon, it's just like, okay, I'm going to cleave you over and over and over again, instead of, okay, I've got to I can put points in one dot. And so, did anybody come up with new edges?
Well, but that's no different than, I have potence, so I'm just going to keep punching you until you splat.
No, because with potence you can pick up other things.
I think what you're trying to
them.
ask is, how do hunters learn new edges? Is that what I'm trying? Is that?
Are you asking if there's like combination edges, or?
Well, that too. But I'm just saying, is there?
All right. Long story short, there's no real proper explanation. It also depends entirely on what you want the messengers to be. In canon, you could interpret it as being, once hunters have dedicated themselves past a certain point, the messengers bless them with new edges to help them
fight the monsters.
Fight far worse monsters. Otherwise, perhaps you could also interpret them as they're growing into themselves. Kind of like when you train. Your muscles adapt to the exercise. That's why you get big muscles, better cardio and things like that. They don't. I mean, in the Creed books, they have an alternative set of...
I saw those. But even those, it just seems like, not every skill, this 1 point skill is not what you need to use every time. And I get raising your dot levels so you can get all the cool other shit that we've discussed as far as the edges are concerned. So I get that too. It just seems like there should be more for Hunter.
Well, Hunter was never a very big game.
No.
So it really
It's the one game that people played less than Wraith.
Yeah. Which I think is a shame, really, because Hunter's actually a pretty fun game.
Is it?
They were new to their powers too, though, so they didn't have time to experiment or to try to develop alternative versions of edges or combination edges or whatever would be something that perhaps 20 years down the road we might see, because now hunters have been around and they can share secrets and they can try new things. But when the game came out, we're talking about people that had their supernatural power for a week, and those powers only existed 2 weeks ago. So was no real opportunity in this plot line for them to have had various different tweaks and changes and modifications or anything like that.
Because just sitting here, I thought unless they've already got it. Well, you can take hold on. You can take an ambient source of light, like a flood lamp or something, and be able to imbue it with the power of the sunlight. So you could actually use it.
You're thinking of Blaze.
Okay.
There's very few hunters which even that not so much have that power, but have even heard of that power. That's another thing that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
We call the edges by their names, like Cleave and things like that, because it's convenient for gaming. But in canon, if I have the Cleave edge, depending on my character, I'm probably not going to call it that. In canon, like everyone always tries to, they describe their edges in pretty vague terms, or they give these cute little nicknames, to their edges. Like someone calls their ward edge blowback, or they might call their brand edge, something like burning touch or something. Or they might, if they have the champion edge, they might call it.
So you're saying with the listed names are just general reference.
Yeah, the listed names are just for players to refer to, but as far as hunters go, they're not organized as of the last book to have people who know a wide variety of edges and who can impart that knowledge. There's nobody who can sit there and go, well, for you to be able to use discern, you have to meditate in this specific way.
Oh, so you can't just go down to the local dojo and see Shifu and...
No, you can't just go down to the local chantry and ask the regent there if you can learn the lure of the flame.
No, that's true. No, you can't really do that. But that's because we're dicks. I would think the hunters would want to work together. At least that's the impression I've gotten during the show. If they can find out about each other, they would want to work together.
For the most part, yes.
It would take a bit, though, for them to get to that level of trust. Yeah. Because how do they know that the person they're communicating with is a hunter and not another monster, right?
Not to mention the fact that, I am aware that monsters exist. I am aware I have these powers.
But you can't be the only fool on the planet.
To another human being, if I say those words out loud to another human being, how do I know they're not going to bring them in with the nice coats
the Baker Act,
that let me hug myself?
They're going to Baker Act your ass and put you in the bin. But see, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. Now, even saying that you see monsters definitely wouldn't get you involuntarily committed, because you kind of have to be, a threat to yourself or others, and just saying you're seeing monsters doesn't rise to that.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many people on YouTube have said some really whacked out crazy things that they're still around,
and they have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah. Yes,
but like I said though, and again, you are aware there are monsters. You are aware that you have these quote-unquote superpowers.
But you can't be arrogant enough to believe you're the only motherfucker on the planet.
No, but if you are aware of these monsters, how do you know that they're not waiting for you to say to the world, I have superpowers, so that they can come kill you?
That's probably going to happen to quite a few of the Awakened.
Yes, quite a lot of the Imbued are imbued on their own.
Yeah. But I call it Darwinism at its finest.
Well, here's the thing. The messengers, when they made the Imbued, they made them with the intent of making more of them. In times gone by, heroes had tremendous powers, but they eventually became corrupt through them. The idea that they create the imbued and make so many of them, but make them, make them like starting level, as it were, was to show them some level of humility in theory. Now keep in mind that they're imbuing ordinary people. Not everyone is going to think that, oh, there must be other people like me. I mean, some people would probably hope, and certainly there are means that you can use to communicate and that you can understand. Hunter code, for example. You go around and you see this like weird like crop circle type thing, which you instinctively know
what it means.
Yes, meets allies. Imbued.
I thought that was kind of cool. That was one of the upsides when I read Hunter the first time. I was like, wow, they have their own language? That's pretty hip.
And here's the thing. No monsters can either understand it.
Can even understand it. That was the other thing.
Or spot it. They're completely oblivious.
Doesn't one of the creeds believe that it's the language of heaven?
There is maybe like a few imbued who believe that maybe some sort of secret language, but for the most part, like I said earlier on, the creeds are just basically mindsets. They're not like actual like clans or bloodlines or anything.
No, it's different.
They're not unified. I mean, they may have like similar priorities, similar like ideas, but they're not all on the same page.
Until we get our update, and then they will have hunter.org and hunternet.org, which that's just so hard to say. It should just be hunter.org.
They just call it HunterNet.
HunterNet. So, yeah, with 20 years of HunterNet, they should have a fairly decent network at this point. Getting worldwide reports of critters and, destruction of, and or if you're one of those folks that actually has somehow figured out how to make this job pay, they can actually go around the word killing shit. Kind of like Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters. Those guys. I don't know if you've seen that one. I was just like, oh, that's a hunter. That's a hunter. I don't give a shit. Because they killed everything. It wasn't that dude's scrapbook had them killing not just witches. There was a werewolf they got, and the giant chicken, and some really crazy shit.
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you need to. It's actually one of the.
It was a very cheesy action movie that came out a few years ago with Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, as Hawkeye. He played Hansel,
and it's a very fun romp to watch. Don't expect any Oscar-winning performances.
No, not even close.
The effects are decent, and like I said, it's just for entertainment. So if it happens to come on cable, or I don't know if it's still on Netflix or not, but it might be on Amazon, whatever, and you got an hour and a half to kill, watch it.
You should. It's actually, you don't have to own it, but it's worth seeing at least once. And it's a hunter flick. I like hunter movies. They're awesome. What is John Carpenter's Vampires? The one where James Woods. That's a hunter flick, man.
There's another point too. We've touched on like different supernatural things being problems for hunters, but the fact that all the hunter organizations that have been around for centuries,
Society of Leopold,
they don't like hunter like the new hunters either. I mean, the Society of Leopold would see them as being heretics at the best.
Yeah.
Well, there is actually a supplement called First Contact where it describes like
it goes through their meetings.
It gives you initial meetings. Like none of them know what to do with them. The Society of Leopold, it presents like various situations for it. What the one situation presents them as being, kind of like fellow travelers on a similar road, cautiously, of course. Another situation describes them as having kind of like an uneasy, truce between them. Another scenario presents them as being, the imbued or false prophets or anything like that. There was also stuff about the FBI SAD division, where they basically...
Yeah, I think that was the Project Twilight section.
Yeah.
What? Wait,
yeah,
what?
There's also an Arkham section, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something Fae. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Dauntain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was only like a single, maybe one or two pages, as I recall. But yeah, it was an interesting book.
Yeah.
But I've always been, drawn to Hunter movies in general, as far as glimpses into the supernatural.
You know what a good Hunter movie is? Like a movie which, like, to me, encapsulates everything what Hunter the Reckoning is about. Shaman M. Night's Unbreakable with Bruce Willis.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that would be that's a very good comparison.
Yeah, just even in that last scene as well, when he goes into the subway.
I'll need to watch it again.
And his abilities. That when he goes into the subway and he starts experiencing those visions, that's the Martyrdom Level 2 Edge Witness, and his super strength. That's Level 1 Power Demand.
Wait a minute, what? New Wave? Yes, they are hunters, yeah? Society of Leopold.
They're hunters, but not hunters as in Hunter the Reckoning.
Yes.
It's a different kind of... They use their technology to hunt them.
No, it's more a case of they use faith and fire to hunt the monsters, but with the hunters from Hunter the Reckoning, we should probably call those imbued, just to
differentiate. Yeah,
imbued.
Yeah,
imbued.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, Jason, thank you for bringing up demand. That is an awesome power to where you can literally have one person, a regular guy, reach up, and I believe this is even the example they give in the book, grab a bank vault door and rip it off of its hinges.
Yes, you need...
Now, they will drop down because... Yeah, they will drop down because of this, what it does to their bodies, but they could get away with that.
Yeah, mechanically speaking, what happens is you take a level of bashing damage when you declare you're going to use demand, but you basically get your mercy rating as extra dice on your any strength related rolls, whether it's a damage roll, trying to lift up something or break something.
I throw a car at you
with a high enough.
Probably a little more subtler than that.
Yeah, I check a sewer lid. Potence.
You could with it if you had a high enough mercy rating, but
I think that would be funny.
What Donnie described was kind of in like the higher end of the See what I mean by the low level edges having a lot more oomph to them when you start getting high virtues.
I'm just picturing a Bruja picking up that manhole cover, hurling it at this guy, and the guy catches it
and throws it back.
No, bends it in half, drops it to the ground, and goes, "What else you got?"
No. Catch it and chuck it back at him. That would just freak him the fuck out.
Or alternatively, assuming that it's a martyr, he could use... God, what was it? Could use inflict and just go over there and try and beat the shit out of him. And if they try and use potence on him to hit him, well, guess what? All that damage is going to get reflected back on the Bruja.
Oh no! Now, right? Oh, nice.
That is another. That's one.
Really, because humans in general are kind of squishy as far as the denizens of the world of darkness are concerned.
Forgetting martyrs, they don't give a shit.
That's true too. They're all about that front line.
Leaping
into battle berserker style.
Yeah, martyrdom edges are so broken. In a good way.
It's because martyrs are so broken.
Yeah.
but not in a good way. I meant that mentally, not.
you don't want a martyr and a wayward to have coffee together. Things will go bad.
No, things might get interesting.
It might.
Yeah, the wayward goes, you should do a suicide bombing, and the martyr goes, yeah, I should.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be interesting though to compare an imbued to the she from Demon Hunter X.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now you lost me.
Yeah, there is actually a canon meeting between the two of those. It's in the survival guide. I believe the guy was like half Japanese, half American. He was based. I can't remember what creed he was, but he met one of the Shi whilst he was in Japan, and he tried to describe, the event of his imbuing, and the Shi got really freaked out because it was basically kind of like heaven is turning its face back on Earth again, which it technically is.
Yeah, I mean if celestial imbuement is happening more and more readily, yeah, things could go sideways pretty soon. I figure a war comes. They're going to throw a war at us at some point in the next decade. Just bet on it. And I'm kind of curious as to who the antagonists and protagonists are going to be.
Yeah, it does actually mention in the End of Times scenario that there are several war scenarios for the imbued. Even sets out roles, and fucking hell, even God 45 and Payless play a role in that.
Yeah.
That's actually if you've ever read the Creed books and all the fluff, I have to say that the Wayward Creed book, especially the story between God 45 and Payless, how that ended up scared me, because basically it was two Waywards enter a room and two Waywards leave. And considering it was basically, a black supremacist and a former Ku Klux Klan member, yeah, that's really freaky. It's basically like Hotep Jesus and the alt-right, uniting to create this horror, this complete horror show.
Hotep Jesus. Now that's a nickname for you.
That is an actual person, believe it or not.
Is it?
Yeah.
I know some of the names through the fluff that goes along with the game. Some of those are based on real people. Yeah. Like Beckett. I forget who he's based on. One of the old school guys from when they were still in Atlanta. Let's see. My guess would be either Russia or North Korea. And that's in response to... Go ahead, Donnie.
Because we were mentioning about they'll force a war on us.
Oh, yeah.
I think it probably would start in the Middle East, most likely Israel.
Oh, well, that would... that's right up there. If they're going to go with the whole Christian-centric mythology.
Or Syria.
Yeah, somewhere in that vicinity. But no, I think, no, there's something going to happen in the world of darkness that's going to trigger a, one of those apocalyptic events, but not the apocalypse everybody expected kind of thing.
Actually,
I still not liking that.
In End of Times, I do recall that there were several nuclear detonations. I think one of them was in... Actually, I think one of them was in Los Angeles.
Indiana, in the heart of the Anarch Free State.
Yeah, and I think God 45... Actually, I remember now. God 45 wrote this one message on HunterNet. The sun is gone, but I have a light.
Now that's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What I think is that he somehow got in possession of a, or he
one of those old Soviet warheads.
No, I think he constructed a dirty bomb, or an improvised nuclear weapon. And yes, he decided to completely obliterate a major city.
Yeah, see? The downside is if you ever do that, nobody will stop looking for you.
That's true, but it's God 45.
Yeah.
You know?
Not familiar with those.
This guy is meticulous with the way that he plans everything.
I was one of those.
Yeah, he's one of those waywards.
So, what about wraiths? Can they see them?
Wraiths, ghosts.
Yeah,
they can see ghosts. So when they have the second sight up, they can see them. Clear as day.
What about interacting?
They can use cleave on them. Cleave works on in.
It goes.
It
works on the other side of the veil. Oh shit.
Technically, no. The ghosts on the in the Shadowlands, they cannot affect things. Well,
okay, that was my question.
You actually reminded me because of like the maelstrom. Obviously, wraiths are quite fucked when they go into the Shadowlands. So most of the ghosts that the imbued see are kind of ones which have either been flung into the real world by that maelstrom.
Yeah.
Possessing things like mailboxes and people and what have you. And the ghosts that are around there usually are kind of, not really sane. So cleave does cleave does affect like immaterial creatures, so it can affect like things like ghosts and discorporeal monsters.
Alright. Okay, I was curious about that.
But again, unless the ghost is making itself known,
unless it's manifesting on this side,
or the hunter has active second sight.
Yeah, that's why I said they'd have to have second sight up and running. Which, by the way, I still think is the greatest benefit they've got to basically going. Oh, you're trying to affect my mind? No. You're trying to affect my illusions? No. You're trying to make me scared? No.
Is this your card? Nope.
Yeah, that when I first started, being aware of Hunter, a lot of people were, mainly like vampires and mage players and things like that. They are really fucking. I don't like to use the word salty, but it's pretty apt description. They felt that if someone was able to resist dominate or presence or anything, they had to bring out the guns.
Okay.
Which is pretty dumb, in my opinion. I mean, let me put it this way. They tried to make it across like it was completely and utterly broken, when in actuality it kind of isn't. Look, just because you can see what's going on, and just because you're resistant against the effects of everything, including supernatural fear, you're still a squishy human being.
That's what I mentioned earlier. I said, of all of the denizens of the world of darkness, they are the squishiest.
Yeah.
Even mages, they're squishy too, but they're not as squishy.
Yeah, they have potential there, to resist things. Hunters can too, but they need to be a little bit more higher level
before they can actually start soaking some shit.
Yeah. Or they need like specialist equipment or circumstance, which is another thing.
So what is the deal with? Okay, do they automatically try to kill every monster they see, or are they?
It depends.
That is creed by creed.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
It's not even creed by creed. It's individual by individual. Like Bookworm 55 would more than likely, give monsters, at least initially, unless they're being like blatantly malicious.
Yeah, malicious. Yeah,
he'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Whilst someone like Crusader 17 would be actively searching for the most malevolent,
the biggest nasty in town.
Yeah, he'll for the smaller ones, you'll just be kind of like either outright dismissive or, just don't talk to that one, Basically no platform them, as it were. Whilst for someone like Payless or God45, they just lumped under the same category of, target.
Kill it now.
Kill it with fire.
Yeah, kill it with fire. Take off, nuke it from orbit.
Yes.
It's the only way to be sure.
Gas the Xenos. Galactic war now.
So, okay, so we're... so I did get one of my questions answered. That's awesome. They are squishy, but they have ways around the squishiness.
Yeah.
Not as many as others. But
not as many as others, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
doesn't work as well as Fortitude or something.
Yeah, remember that every hunter is an everyman. It's an everyman game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try like doing stuff like hillbilly body armor and putting stuff on your car, but it's not.
You're gonna get pulled over though if you do that.
Yeah, probably. Well, unless you live in like rural.
That's true.
Rural areas, or you try and convince the police officer that it's for a float or something.
Gotcha. Holy shit! I'm after this vampire. Yeah, you sure you are.
Yeah, so it's,
sir, can you explain why you have...
You mind stepping out of the vehicle?
Yeah. So you're after a vampire. You do realise that he's mayor.
Right.
I mean, yes, I do realise that we voted we voted the Democrats in. But
doesn't mean I'm not going to try and kill him, though.
System, okay?
Hashtag not my mayor.
That's right. That's a good one. Hey, dude, I know you're on the Twitter feed right now. Do it. That's fucking funny, yo. Yeah. But it's I guess an individual choice about leaping into battle. I get that, and some things that they may run across would be okay. They've seen bunches of werewolves and vampires and shit, but holy shit, what is that?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Well, I mean, even whenever the first time you encounter a vampire, you're still going to be like,
holy shit, what is that? Yeah. No, I'm talking about, okay, you've seen 3 or 4. You know what they are now. You're not quite powerful enough to take them on yet, but what the fuck is that? Looks like a ghost. Well, that's probably what it is. Can you see through it, and is it floating? Yes, and yes. Then it's a ghost.
Is he wearing chains?
Yeah,
yes.
that's.
We'll tell him that.
Is it Christmas? Yes.
Does he answer to the name Casper? Probably.
Sorry. My goodness. Tasty. That phlegm comes up and you just So, all right.
You've actually just reminded me of something. You know the idea of the vampire mayor? You do realise that if some people realise that a politician was a supernatural creature, they probably would want to vote for them. Just
it's like The Rock's planning to run in 2020, and everybody I know is planning to vote for him.
Yeah, because some people are just, well, especially in our community, some people are just complete freaks. I honestly believe that at some point, if I like looked at one of like the tabloid newspapers and said something like, Neil Kinnock is a homosexual. Neil Kinnock's grandparents were homosexual Martians. You're guaranteed to get some fucker that's going to say, "Good thing I knew that. Good thing I learned that. I was going to vote Tories."
That's right. So you have no idea what you just saved me from making a horrible mistake. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to vote for the homosexual Martians.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Or the descendant of homosexual Martians.
Yes, the descendant of homosexual Martians. See, that's the problem with gay people, man. They breed like fucking rabbits, man. I don't understand how this works out.
No, I don't either. It's 4:00 in the morning.
I love gay people. They're awesome. In general, I've yet to meet a gay person that I wasn't comfortable being around.
You've not met some of the gay people that I've met.
But that's the question I have is I've never actually role played with an openly gay individual. So I'm wondering, do they actually get better into their character than straight folks?
Actually, I've gamed with gay players in the past, and they're no more or less skilled at gaming than you or I are.
Yeah, I'm a little confused why that would even be like. Why would there be a distinction?
Well, no, it's just okay.
Yeah,
for instance, there are gay folks. I've known a few drag queens and they love putting on a show. And a role playing game is a really good place to do that. That's what I'm saying. And in general, gay guys anyway, that I've ever met love making an entrance, love putting on a show. But they do it in real life for the most part, especially when they're comfortable. So I'm just wondering, not having played with new, with openly gay folks, if that was the case, if they got into their characters a bit more than straight folks do.
I wouldn't expect them to.
No.
Differently.
Okay. Not in my experience. No.
But
they're just like any other people. In honesty, some of them.
In general, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure why we're having this conversation.
Then let's just move on to something else. We've got 13
however.
minutes.
I will say this, however. Everyone, barring like 2 exceptions that I've ever met, were complete and utterly, fantastic people, and I would game with them again in a second.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah, there's very few people out there, regardless of whatever sexual orientation or whatever, that I honestly would say that I would never game with again.
There's plenty more straight people I could say that of.
Yeah, it's not even to me. It's not even a factor. Why would someone's sexuality or any other factor about them, for that matter, really,
because
be a factor with whether or not you
all of the aspects of a human being, their personality,
and to bring it back in the messengers don't care what you like or don't like or are attracted to. Or not attracted.
In fact, that you've actually just reminded me. In canon, there is a gay hunter.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I believe it was. It was in the mage, the supplement about mages. I believe the guy's name was like Boy 370.
Spelled BOI.
Yeah, BOI. Yeah, he was a. He was a redeemer, I think, and he saved Soldier 91's life by using the. Respire edge on him, and Soldier. And this is like back in like the late 90s. It was a completely different era back then.
Oh yeah. We were still reeling from the Reagan era.
Yeah, and it was still Don't Ask, Don't Tell for you guys. And yeah, basically there was like this big spat between some of the hunters, and someone mentioned that Boy was to use Respire on Soldier 91. Boy had to kiss Soldier. His name's Steve, so I'll just say Steve. And Steve just went off on one saying like, I don't give a fuck about that. This guy saved my life, so fuck you.
Right.
In short, anyway, it was a lot. The sentence was a lot longer, but yeah. But yeah, that's the messenger. Long story short, the messengers don't play identity politics, though quite a lot of hunters do. Hence, in the case of like people like Palis, who is an interesting one.
Well, New Wave says she's happy that her sexuality doesn't matter.
No,
of course not.
No. But if you are a drag queen, I want you to RP better than I do.
That's why I was like all confused how we ended up on this tangent. But
well, it does actually. It does bring up something in Hunter. It did bring up something in Hunter that the messengers don't particularly care about. What they don't care about. They don't care if you're a good Christian or a good Jew.
No, it has nothing. The imbuing has nothing to actually do with religion. It's true faith is the only one that is even remotely religious.
I think the world of darkness was really, considering it was the 90s, and where there's like shows I remember enjoying watching in the 90s, and now you're watching it now, and some of the little dialogue and stuff I just cringe at because I'm like I just, like, so many things I just didn't even realize. But World of Darkness was so ahead of the game in a lot of ways for representation.
Yes.
Both on racial and sexual orientation and everything like that. I think it was really good, and I think that actually may have attracted a lot of people from various subcultures because they could see that level of representation in the, like Jason mentioned about, even in Hunter, and that those individuals were treated as people and individuals and had their own stories and their own motivations, and they weren't cliches, they weren't pigeonholed. It was all that just happened to be one aspect of their personality. And I think that's one of the things that I always liked about the World of Darkness myself was
sexuality really didn't enter into it.
It was very inclusive and had fairly, even with all the problematic things that people still point out, it really, for the time period, was very progressive in a lot of those areas. So
true.
The what was that? We talked about it on one of the shows.
The deep end, I will say that.
Jacob was. They said, "Oh well, we've actually had the first transsexual character in White Wolf history," and I said, "Nope."
Bullshit. That's Sasha.
Sasha Vikos. I was like, where the fuck have you been? Where the fuck? I said, this motherfucker swaps genders like it's going out of style.
Yes.
And actually loses gender completely in some cases.
Yeah. Name. I dare you. Name. Since the 20th anniversary, name me one, canon character that ripped their cock off and threw it at like Hardestat the Younger.
Well, apparently Tremere had a thing going on with Sasha. That one pops up in one of the canon short stories. Is that matter of fact, he's the one who taught her thaumaturgy. That's why she has thaumaturgy instead of what was the other one? Not the vicissitude. The other one. They're secondary.
In addition to.
Oh, that's right. She had all three. You can say either way, and it really doesn't matter.
It, whatever. It
depends on the day nowadays.
Yes.
Because I think Sasha is actually gender neutral in modern times.
That's what I said. Completely loses gender.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think Sasha Vikos would particularly care if you misgender them.
No.
They're above such mortal terms.
Right at that
point. Because Sasha will sit there and go, "Did you just address me as sir? Well, I just figured out what I'm going to be tomorrow."
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. As long as you refer to them by their honorific.
Yes. Archbishop or whatever.
All right, so almost 2 hours ago, somebody mentioned something about pigeonholing or predicting which of the creeds the individuals on the show would be. So, Jason, I'd like to hear what creed that you would place each of us four into based on what little or much that you know of us.
Probably for Donnie, I would say maybe an Avenger or a Judge, perhaps. For Peter, I would probably say a Visionary, and probably the same for Jacob as well.
Cool.
I was actually
what
thinking
about yourself?
Wayward.
Where'd you put yourself?
For Jacob.
What, me?
Yeah, where would you put yourself?
Wayward. Just kidding. I'd probably be a Visionary as well, with an inclination towards, Zeal as well, Zeal-based Visionary.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, we've got 5 minutes less. Yeah. Any last minute questions from the Peanut Gallery? I suggest you get them in now. Next show, dude. What are we doing? I'm completely lost track of everything at this point.
Well, so the reason I had suggested Hunter is because we've been so heavily vampire oriented.
Yes, and I get that, and I think you were absolutely right about that.
And because this was the topic that we got even more off topic than we did tonight,
which
so I wanted
us
to have us
redemption. One hopes.
Yeah.
Hey, so does this mean that there might be a third one to where we're entirely focused on Hunter?
Oh no, dude! It's going to be a while before we do another Hunter show.
That much.
We do. We have a lot more shit to do.
We should. You know what? There's a couple things that we've mentioned a couple of times we've never gotten around to, but we should find two people that have actually played Scion. That's
a good question. Think you could drum us up two people?
Does run
and or what's the prehistory one? What's that one called? Exalted. We should do an Exalted episode as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will let you know. I ran a Scion game that the only reason why it ended was due to us having scheduling conflicts. As for Exalted, I recently got out of a 2.5-year-long campaign of it. So,
sounds
if
like
you
Donnie's
need somebody for
sounds
those,
like Donnie's up.
Yeah, I am. And you guys already know, if you talk about the Aeon Continuum at all, and you don't include me, I will boycott your show.
Right? That's what I think. I think we should all boycott this show.
Yeah.
So, okay. You think you can get us one more, Jacob? For Scion?
I'll see what I can find.
All right. Then no. Next week's show, or 2 weeks from now, is not a surprise, New Wave. On the 22nd, we will be doing a show on Scion.
Hey, New Wave, have you ever played Scion?
That's a good question.
We'll wait for her response.
Of course. Usually takes about a minute because she's about that far behind.
Yeah.
So
she's curious about Scion. Ooh. We'll see if that curiosity we can hear what she sounds like, maybe.
Maybe.
Oh, she'll probably turn me down again.
She's just such a wuss. She can't. Come on, you can come on the air. If I can do it, you can do it.
That's right, Peter. Bullying people
always works. Yes, I know. Now listen, it actually worked a couple of times. I got some folks on the air who did not want to be on the air, and not just for this show. I'm talking about back when I used to DJ. Is I actually would get folks into the studio and have a little chat between songs. And so, yeah, all right. So we need to figure out how to get her set up so we can hear her, and you get to be in on the discussion, on the actual discussion, as opposed to the tape delay. Wow, that's going to be cool. All right, we are at 1:59:51. So this is it for tonight, folks. I want to thank you guys for showing up. All you wonderful folks that do show up in the channel. those of you that are going to be on the show next week, I suggest drumming up some listenership wouldn't go amiss. Just saying. And Sabrina, you've been bullied by me on more than one occasion, so don't even. I'm not even going to deal with it. So, all right, guys, everybody say good night.
Good night. And
night.
Take back the night.
Good night.